Some argue that Uncle Billy's fumbling fingers changed cinema history in the worst possible way. When Thomas Mitchell's absent-minded character loses that crucial $8,000 in It's a Wonderful Life, he doesn't just misplace cash. He becomes the unwitting architect of George Bailey's darkest hour. The moment Billy carelessly hands over the bank deposit wrapped in a newspaper, only to watch it disappear into the hands of the villainous Mr. Potter, many viewers have expressed feeling as if they want to reach through the screen and shake some sense into him. What many find particularly maddening about Billy's blunder is its sheer preventability. Here's a man entrusted with the financial lifeline of the Bailey building and loan, yet some viewers feel he treats $8,000 like pocket change. It's easy to imagine that his scatterbrained approach to banking would make any modern financial advisor break into a cold sweat. For many viewers, the irony cuts deep. While George Bailey sacrifices his dreams and ambitions for the greater good, his own uncle's incompetence threatens to destroy everything. Critics and audiences find this narrative choice by Frank Capra both brilliant and infuriating. Billy's mistake forces George into his crisis of despair, but it also tends to shift audience sympathy away from the bumbling uncle. Viewers report feeling torn between understanding Billy's genuine remorse and wanting to throttle him for his carelessness. For some, the character becomes a lightning rod for frustration, embodying every viewer's worst nightmare about trusting important tasks to unreliable people. Modern audiences remain split on Billy's redemption. Some argue his decades of loyal service to George deserve forgiveness, while others maintain that his one catastrophic error nearly cost a good man his life. The debate rages on social media every Christmas season, showing that Uncle Billy's incompetence continues to strike a nerve 77 years later. Gloria Upson transforms casual bigotry into comedic ammunition, leaving audiences wondering whether they should laugh or cringe. In Auntie Mame, this vapid socialite delivers her prejudiced observations with such breathtaking obliviousness that she becomes a masterclass in how privilege can blind people to their own cruelty. When Gloria casually dismisses entire groups of people with the same tone she might use to critique wallpaper, the film walks a razor's edge between satire and genuine offense. What makes Gloria particularly grating is her complete lack of self-awareness. She spouts elitist nonsense with the confidence of someone who has never been challenged, never been told no, and never had to consider how her words might wound others. Her remarks about social inferiors aren't delivered with malicious intent. They flow from her mouth like water from a faucet, natural and unstoppable. This casual cruelty often proves more unsettling than outright villainy because it mirrors the thoughtless prejudice that viewers recognize from their own social circles. The film's writers deliberately crafted Gloria as a foil to Mame's progressive worldview, but her character creates an uncomfortable tension. While Mame embraces diversity and challenges social conventions, Gloria represents everything backward about high society. Her shallow observations about breeding, background, and social standing expose the hollow core of aristocratic pretension. Yet some viewers find her so thoroughly detestable that she threatens to overshadow the film's more nuanced social commentary. Gloria's lasting impact lies in her ability to make audiences squirm while simultaneously making them laugh. She embodies the worst impulses of privileged society: the casual dismissal of others, the assumption of superiority, the complete inability to see beyond one's own narrow worldview. Her character serves as a time capsule of 1950s social attitudes, preserved in all their cringeworthy glory for modern audiences to dissect and judge. Angela Lansbury's Mrs. Eiselyn weaponizes motherhood with surgical precision, creating a character so suffocatingly controlling that audiences find themselves gasping for air alongside her victims. In The Manchurian Candidate, this political puppet master doesn't just manipulate her son Raymond. She orchestrates his entire existence like a conductor leading a symphony of psychological warfare. Her chilling delivery of seemingly innocent phrases like asking Raymond to pass the time by playing a little solitaire transforms mundane moments into triggers for brainwashed compliance. What makes her particularly exasperating is her ability to cloak domination and maternal concern. She speaks in honeyed tones while pulling invisible strings, making every interaction feel like a chess match where only she knows the rules. Lansbury herself recognized this duality, noting how she wanted the character to be terrifying, but also someone you couldn't look away from. This magnetic repulsion creates a viewing experience that leaves audiences simultaneously fascinated and frustrated by her relentless control. The casting decision initially sparked debate. Lansbury was only 36, just 3 years older than Lawrence Harvey, who played her son. Yet this minimal age discrepancy actually amplifies the character's unsettling nature. Her youthful energy channeled into such calculating manipulation makes her dominance feel even more unnatural and oppressive. Some reports suggest Harvey struggled with Lansbury's intensity during filming, sometimes becoming visibly uncomfortable when she improvised, particularly cutting lines. Modern political analysts have drawn uncomfortable parallels between Mrs. Eiselyn's tactics and contemporary disinformation campaigns. Her methods, gaslighting, emotional coercion, and the weaponization of family bonds, feel disturbingly relevant in today's political climate. The character's enduring power lies in her ability to make viewers recognize the insidious nature of psychological control, wrapped in the deceptive packaging of maternal devotion and patriotic duty. Miss Caswell floats through All About Eve like a beautiful butterfly in a den of sharks, her wide-eyed innocence serving as the perfect mirror to reflect everyone else's calculated ambitions. Marilyn Monroe's portrayal of this aspiring starlet creates a fascinating paradox. Her character's complete obliviousness to the cutthroat machinations around her makes her both endearing and infuriating to watch. When she delivers lines like, "Remind me to tell you about the time I looked into the heart of an artichoke," with genuine enthusiasm, audiences witness the collision between Hollywood dreams and harsh reality. What makes Miss Caswell particularly effective as a satirical device is how her naivete exposes the predatory nature of the entertainment industry. While Margot Channing and Eve Harrington engage in their psychological warfare, Miss Caswell remains blissfully unaware that she's being used as a pawn in their games. Her eagerness to please and desperate desire for acceptance highlight how the industry chews up and spits out vulnerable young women who lack the cunning to protect themselves. Some critics speculate that Monroe drew from her own experiences as a struggling actress to inform her performance, lending authenticity to Miss Caswell's vulnerability. Parallels have been drawn between the character's treatment by the other players, dismissed by Margot, ignored by critics, and manipulated by men in power, and the real struggles Monroe faced in her early career. Film scholars argue that this personal connection transforms what could have been a throwaway role into a poignant commentary on exploitation. The genius of Miss Caswell lies in her function as an unwitting truth-teller. Her innocent observations often cut straight to the heart of the pretension surrounding her, revealing the absurdity of Hollywood's self-importance. Modern feminist film scholars have embraced her character as an early critique of how the industry commodifies and discards young women, making her relevance extend far beyond her brief screen time in this classic tale of ambition and betrayal. Mrs. Banks marches through Mary Poppins with her suffragette banner held high while her children practically raise themselves, creating a character whose noble cause becomes a source of genuine viewer frustration. Glynis Johns brings infectious energy to this women's rights crusader, but her portrayal highlights a troubling disconnect between political passion and parental responsibility. When Mrs. Banks bursts into song about sisterhood and equality, audiences can't help but notice that Jane and Michael are left to fend for themselves, creating emotional distance in a film supposedly celebrating family bonds. The character's single-minded focus on voting rights transforms what should be admirable activism into a form of benign neglect. Her enthusiastic declarations about women's liberation ring hollow when contrasted with her absence during her children's daily struggles. Some critics at the time argued this portrayal was particularly jarring because it seemed to suggest that women couldn't successfully balance public advocacy with private nurturing, a message that felt regressive even by 1960s standards. What makes Mrs. Banks especially problematic is how her activism appears performative rather than deeply felt. She treats suffrage meetings like social gatherings, complete with theatrical gestures and dramatic proclamations that feel more like costume party antics than serious political engagement. This superficial approach to such an important historical movement struck many as tone-deaf, reducing genuine feminist struggle to comedic set pieces. The film's treatment of her character creates an uncomfortable subtext about working mothers and political engagement. Rather than presenting a nuanced portrait of a woman juggling multiple responsibilities, the script reduces her to a caricature whose priorities seem fundamentally misaligned. Modern feminist scholars have noted how this portrayal inadvertently reinforces stereotypes about activist women being neglectful mothers, making Mrs. Banks a lightning rod for criticism that extends far beyond her brief screen time in this beloved musical. Jack Lemmon transforms Professor Fate into a theatrical whirlwind of mustache-twirling malevolence, channeling the grandiose villainy of silent cinema's most memorable antagonists with gleeful abandon. His performance in The Great Race operates as a love letter to the era of pearl-white cereals and snidely whiplash caricatures, complete with dramatic cape flourishes and diabolical cackles that would make any 1910s villain proud. Lemon commits so completely to this cartoonish excess that every scene becomes a masterclass in controlled overacting, where subtlety gets tossed out of the window in favor of pure, unadulterated spectacle. The character's elaborate schemes, from his steam-powered contraptions to his unnecessarily complex sabotage plots, mirror the delightfully convoluted machinations of silent-era melodramas. Lemon understood that Professor Fate needed to exist in a heightened reality where logic takes a backseat to visual comedy and theatrical timing. His interactions with his loyal sidekick Max showcase this dynamic perfectly, with Fate's grandiose proclamations contrasting beautifully against Max's bumbling devotion. What makes Lemon's approach particularly fascinating is how he balances genuine menace with comedic incompetence. Professor Fate genuinely believes in his own villainous superiority, yet his plans consistently backfire in spectacular fashion. This creates a character who feels both threatening and harmless simultaneously, a delicate balance that requires considerable skill to maintain without tipping into pure farce or losing comedic momentum. The mixed reception of Lemon's performance reflects the challenge of translating silent-era sensibilities to 1960s audiences. While some critics praised his commitment to the homage, others found his theatrical approach exhausting over the film's epic runtime. Modern comedy scholars recognize Professor Fate as a bridge between classical villain archetypes and contemporary comic antagonists, making Lemon's interpretation a crucial link in the evolution of cinematic villainy. Judith Anderson's Mrs. Danvers glides through Rebecca like a specter made flesh, her glacial composure and unwavering devotion to the deceased Rebecca creating an atmosphere so suffocating that even devoted Hitchcock fans occasionally found themselves checking their watches. Anderson's performance operates on a level of psychological intensity that borders on the unbearable, her every measured step and carefully modulated whisper designed to unsettle not just the trembling second Mrs. De Winter, but audiences who expected their villains to be more conventionally theatrical. When she delivers her chilling monologues about Rebecca's lingering presence, Anderson's refusal to break character or offer viewers any emotional relief transforms what could have been melodramatic into something genuinely disturbing. The character's relentless single-mindedness becomes her most maddening quality. While other Hitchcock antagonists reveal layers of complexity or moments of vulnerability, Mrs. Danvers remains locked in her obsessive grief with mechanical precision. Her inability to accept Rebecca's death, or acknowledge the new Mrs. De Winter's legitimacy, creates a psychological prison that traps everyone around her, including the audience. Anderson's unwavering commitment to this emotional rigidity, while masterful, could feel punishing during the film's longer sequences. What distinguished Anderson's approach was her decision to play Mrs. Danvers as completely sincere in her devotion rather than calculating in her cruelty. This choice made her manipulation feel more organic, and therefore more unsettling than typical villain theatrics. Her famous bedroom scene, where she encourages the protagonist towards self-destruction, derives its power from Anderson's ability to make genuine care and malicious intent indistinguishable. Modern psychological thrillers still struggle to match the claustrophobic dread Anderson created through sheer force of unwavering commitment to her character's twisted worldview. Richard Haydn's Uncle Max Deweiler drifts through the sound of music like a man desperately trying to avoid taking sides in a world that demands moral clarity, his calculated neutrality and opportunistic charm creating friction in a story built on courage and conviction. Haydn crafts Max as the eternal fence-sitter, someone who views the Nazi occupation not as a moral crisis, but as a business inconvenience to be navigated with careful diplomacy and strategic silence. His refusal to condemn the regime or support the Von Trapp family's resistance feels particularly grating when contrasted with the film's celebration of standing up for what's right, no matter the personal cost. The character's attempts at comic relief often land with uncomfortable timing, his self-serving quips about survival and pragmatism undercutting moments that call for genuine emotional weight. When Captain Von Trapp faces impossible choices about serving the Nazi Navy, Max's casual suggestions about compromise and accommodation reveal a moral vacuum that jarred within the musical's otherwise uplifting framework. His inability to recognize the gravity of the situation transforms what should be witty observations into tone-deaf commentary that ages poorly with each viewing. His opportunistic approach to the family's musical talents becomes another source of irritation, as he treats their gift as a commodity to be exploited rather than an expression of joy and resistance. His persistent focus on profit margins and performance schedules while the family faces existential threats demonstrates a fundamental misunderstanding of what truly matters during times of crisis. Film analysts suggest that Hayden's portrayal, while technically proficient, represents a character type that audiences find increasingly difficult to tolerate. The privileged bystander who mistakes moral cowardice for sophisticated pragmatism, creating a jarring presence in an otherwise inspiring tale of family unity and principled resistance. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave a like and comment. Also consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell to get notified of our new videos each week. Thanks for watching.